So in today's video, we're going to look at what do the top 1% of eco installers do differently. So when you see those companies consistently doing over 100 installs per month, consistently getting the good jobs, what is it they're actually doing that's different to everyone else? We're fortunate enough to have worked with over 80 installers now directly on the eco and GBIS schemes. We've worked with clients who are extremely good at what they do and also worked with clients who are not so good at what they do. So that ranges from local installers doing 5 to 10 jobs per month all the way up to those national companies doing the numbers that I referred to earlier, 100, 150 jobs per month. For those people that hit their goals, whatever that may be, what is it they're actually doing to get there? Why are they growing so quickly? And kind of how can you mimic those companies that you might be looking at thinking, how the hell did they get that big? So there are 6 main things that I want to look at in today's video. And the first one that I speak about quite a lot on the YouTube channel is speed to lead and essentially just how leads are managed. So the thing that we see across all of the installers with us that have the highest conversion rates, book the most jobs, is they treat every single lead like it's life or death. So that means when they get a new inquiry comes through, it's them or their team, they're calling that inquiry within minutes. If they don't pick up, they're then calling them 2 to 3 times a day for the next week at least, dropping them emails, voicemails, WhatsApps, whatever you call it. And if the contact rate isn't good, or if one month they didn't get as many bookings as the previous month, they aren't blaming the lead provider, they aren't blaming the marketing company, they're taking accountability and looking at their follow-up process and their team and how they can improve. So if you do want a bit more information on the follow-up process, we recommend, I've got a video on this channel about that. And just a little kind of anecdote that we had recently. So we worked with quite a big installer. They were calling the leads that we were generating for our online campaign, and I think their booking rate was about 3 to 4%. The main thing we told them to focus on was just that follow-up process. So rather than taking hours or days to contact leads, which isn't good enough, start contacting them inside 5 to 10 minutes. And you can see here, they went from getting 2 bookings the previous week to 12 in the 10 days that followed, and their cost per booking was down to about £200 to £250 for eco jobs that are going to generate them thousands of pounds in revenue. So that's point 1, is just the urgency they have when a new lead and a new inquiry comes in. The second common thing that we see amongst the installers we work with or spoken to doing the most installs is they all invest heavily into digital marketing. So if they have a good month of installs, they do more jobs, make more profit, the first thing they're thinking is, can we put more of that back into the marketing that got us those jobs? They start creating that flywheel. They don't have a strict budget. So we speak to some installers who say, oh, we're only going to spend X amount this month. For the installers that are doing, 100, 200 installs, whatever it might be that we work with, they just throw as much as they can at it whilst keeping an eye on it, being profitable, obviously, but there's no strict budget. It's just how can we spend more to get more installs out on the back end. So an example of this is our biggest spender at the moment. They have plans to, by the end of this year, spend nearly £200,000 a month on their Facebook campaigns. They started with us a year ago spending, I think it was £2,000 to £3,000 per month. And we've scaled them from that spend up to 100k a month in a year. And that's because every single week they're pestering us, can we spend more, can we spend more? And they're just in that mindset of putting more back into the thing that's working for them. So essentially the bottom line is they don't wait for leads to fall in their lap. I think a big thing that we see within the industry, if you look on Facebook or LinkedIn, you see all the posts, oh, does anyone have these leads, or we need more lead gens. These companies, they build a system that generates the leads themselves. And once it's working, they double down on that and invest really heavily into it. So a couple of examples I put on my LinkedIn the other day, Impact Energy, who have been with us for nearly a year now. We generated them 50 installs in their first couple of months with us. It required quite a hefty budget, but the budget that we were spending doesn't even make up a quarter of what they spend overall on their online marketing. Similarly, a company called Smartway Energy, they did 150 installs from our Facebook campaign in August. Again, they spend about £100,000 per month on their adverts. And every opportunity they have, they try and invest more. So point number 2 is the biggest installers are always investing in digital marketing. The third trait that we see a lot with the installers making the most and doing the most is they are obsessed with next steps and obsessed with moving fast. So some examples of this is when they have a customer that they're waiting for their council tax bill or they're waiting for the NHS letter, they don't just leave the customer to it. They think, how quickly can I get that customer to send that across? they're following up with that customer. They're really on top of it to move that from inquiry through to survey through to install as quickly as possible. Similarly, when they have a lead that's ready for a survey, they think, how soon can we book that in? Can we get that booked in, even later today? Can we get that booked in tomorrow? If the customer's telling them, oh, I can only do it next Friday, they're making sure the customer can't do it any sooner. They're really kind of obsessed with moving the lead that they have across the pipeline to that next stage. And similarly, if you look at the third point here, if there's a change that we're going to implement into the marketing campaign for them that should improve the results, they're pestering us on how quickly can we get that done, because they want to see the results. They want to see more leads, more jobs as soon as they can. And it's the installers that we speak to on the other side of things who don't do as many installs or don't grow as quickly, who aren't as urgent, don't move with as much speed. And examples of that can even boil down to when they're deciding whether to sign up with us or not. The ones that sign up same day, they're ready to get going, they're usually the bigger installers who grow really quickly, whereas the ones who take 4 or 5 calls, they think about it for 3 weeks, they're the ones that aren't next step obsessed, they aren't as urgent, and that's why they don't grow as quickly. So for all the installers that come on board with us, we have a training program that comes as part of the service. It teaches them all about marketing, telesales, and one of the modules in there is about marketing and sales mindset. The last video of that being about marketing and sales velocity. So this video that you kind of get access to if you come on board with us really breaks down how to keep sales velocity, how to be next step obsessed, and how to essentially just inject your business with a bit of speed to make sure that month after month you continue to grow. So the fourth thing that all the installers we work with that do really well have is an amazing team. It's pretty straightforward and it's pretty common in any successful business. But when we work closely with their staff, whether that be their marketing team, their submission staff, office staff, they're always great. So that comes from, first of all, the owner or the directors. They give them proper processes, proper training, proper scripts. And also it comes down to the actual person that they're working with as well. They're always organised and efficient, and they're always very accountable as well. So if things go wrong, if a lead didn't convert that should have converted, they're really kind of suggesting ways to improve things, make things better. And their staff just really go above and beyond to make sure that working with us is a success. All the leads we're producing are as successful as possible, and essentially just make sure that from inquiry through to survey through to install, everything runs really smoothly. Because we've worked with some big companies doing a lot of installs, but when you work with their team, it's all very messy. They're not very quick at getting back to customers. The communication with customers is poor. The communication with us as their marketing team is poor. And that's why they struggle to grow. And that's why a lot of them try loads and loads of different lead providers, and it all ends in the same result of not the results they'd hoped for. And a lot of that comes down to the staff in the middle not maximizing the most out of the opportunity. So yeah, fourth thing is making sure that you have an amazing team, particularly the customer facing side of things, making sure that they are on it, they're efficient, they're fast, they communicate well with customers. It makes the world of difference to speeding up the sales process and also just maximizing conversion rates as well. So the fifth thing that the top 1% of eco installers have is that they have a long-term mindset. So they think in months or even years, rather than just days and weeks when they're making business decisions and changes. So one example of this is the client that we work with that spends 100 grand a month on the adverts. They actually only started their business last year, and they started very slowly. So they could have done a lot more installs with the leads they were getting, but they decided to focus on delivering quality work to their funder, making sure they got in their good books, because they were thinking about what that would come in terms of additional funding in 6 months' time, even 12 months' time, rather than just trying to force through a load of work to get a bit of profit in the short term. Another example is all the bigger clients we work with that spend the most money on the adverts. They're always the most patient. They aren't jumping from one marketing company to another after 2 weeks. They partner with someone because they believe in them for the long term. They provide feedback, they communicate well, and that's why they are able to scale to spending 50, 60 grand a month on ads. And that's why they're getting consistent flow of leads. On the flip side, we speak to installers all the time who have tried 5 or 6 different companies. They give them 3 weeks, and if it doesn't work, they just jump to the next. So it's those companies that can think in the long term, build a real relationship with whether it's a lead provider, marketing company, whatever it is, rather than just looking at the next few weeks and whether they fill their pipeline. Third example is they are very focused on partnerships rather than just one-off transactions. So referring back to my earlier example, when you see installers on LinkedIn and Facebook asking who's got leads or where are the lead generators, they're very often looking for one-off transactions. They want one lead off someone, they're going to pay them a certain rate, and then they're probably never going to speak to them again. Whereas the installers that focus more on partnerships, even if sometimes that means being patient, overpaying someone, they are the ones that work out better in the long term. They now have a reliable set of lead providers, whether that's a marketing company, door knocker, whatever it might be, that they have a very close relationship with beyond just that immediate transaction. And over the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, that's going to make their business grow a lot quicker than the company that keeps needing to jump from marketing company to marketing company or lead gen to lead gen just for a slightly better rate each month. So some examples of this, a couple of big companies we work with, you can see this installer here, they want to scale their monthly spend to 40,000 a month on their campaign with us. You can see from this email that the first month didn't go particularly well. They didn't get loads of installs. It wasn't even profitable. But you can see they've very much got the upcoming years in their mind of partnering with us rather than just the upcoming weeks. And similarly here, another company that for the first couple of weeks didn't go as quick or as profitable as they would like, but they are very confident in working with us, giving us feedback and really building a partnership for the long term rather than just for the next couple of days or couple of weeks. And the thing that the biggest installers we work with have in common is they make decisions based on data and logic rather than emotions. So something that we see all the time, particularly in our world of marketing, which a lot of installers don't fully understand because they don't come from that background, is they make decisions with emotions rather than looking at the data. So for example, some of the smaller clients we work with, they always question lead quality. How can we get the leads better? Oh, this isn't working. Whereas the bigger clients we work with always ask to see the numbers before they make any conclusion. And once they've seen the numbers, then they start making suggestions or providing feedback. Because we've had it time and time again where someone will say, oh, we're getting too many leads that don't qualify. But when you actually do the maths of how much they're spending and how many installs they're getting, it works out extremely profitable for them. So the leads are good quality, but they might have just had a slow couple of days where a lot of leads didn't qualify. But when they zoom out, look at the data rather than using emotion, they start seeing things are profitable and things are going well. But for the installers that are always doing well, they're doing the most installs, it's just second nature for them to look at the data and the numbers rather than just make emotional comments or emotional decisions. So something they're very good at doing is zooming out, looking at the data with context and making those longer term decisions, kind of touching back to this point, rather than just making short term decisions based on short term emotions. So a big example of this that we had recently was August is typically a slower month for Eco4 leads. There's a lot of factors that goes into this, the warm weather, people being away on holiday, kids being home. It makes people less urgent to get the work done, harder to book in because they're away or they're busy, which can mean that August is a slower month. So for the clients that use data and they use logic, we would show them this graph, which kind of goes through how click-through rate and leads volume trends throughout the year. And they zoom out and see, okay, this month might be a bit slower, but we're building the foundations for September, October, November. But on the flip side, the clients that are more emotional and short-term thinking, they just see a little dip for a couple of weeks in August and they just think everything's broken. They want to start making massive changes. And we really need to try and explain to them to use the data over the long term, thinking the long term, rather than making these emotional decisions. So all in all, these are kind of the 6 main points that we've taken away from working with over 80 Eco4 installers, good and bad. And these are the 6 common traits that all of the highest performing ones have in common. Just to recap, they are completely on it with new inquiries that come through in terms of their speed and urgency. They invest heavily into what's working to actually generate them the leads. They are very urgent and quick with an inquiry when it actually comes through. They always have amazing team members in the office who are handling the leads, getting them booked in, things like that. They always have a longer term mindset, so they aren't worried about making decisions that will benefit them in 6 or 12 months time. And then finally, they make decisions based off logic and data rather than emotion. So if you do want more information on some of these topics, you can check out the rest of our YouTube channel. There's videos that go through case studies of the top performing installers that we have, that goes through the follow-up process they use. And obviously, if you are interested in coming on board with us and potentially being another case study or another testimonial, there will be a link down below in the description. You can find out a bit more information about what we do, what it looks like working with us, and hopefully we can try and mirror the results that we've seen for some of the bigger, more successful installers that we work with.